This was the first year I would be spending Christmas alone. It sounds sad when you say it out loud, but it honestly wasn't as dramatic as it might seem. I just couldn't afford the flight back to my hometown, and I didn't have enough vacation days to make the trip worth it anyway. I've also always liked walking or driving around on Christmas Day, seeing how people decorate their homes and how peaceful everything feels. When I woke up that morning, I put on the old cartoon Grinch movie and made myself a good breakfast with hot coffee. After that, I spent about an hour on FaceTime with my parents and siblings. By the time we hung up, it was around noon. I didn't have much planned for the rest of the day, but eventually I went to check the mail, and when I opened my front door, I noticed something strange. There were footprints in the snow on my porch, but what bothered me was how they looked. They weren't fresh at all. They were frozen solid, like they had been made many hours earlier, maybe overnight, when it was way below freezing. They weren't pressed into the soft top layer of snow, which meant they definitely weren't new. I looked around even though I could already tell the person who made them was long gone. After a moment, I stepped out to grab my mail, but I couldn't shake how weird it felt. I didn't know if I was scared yet, but I was definitely unsettled. There wasn't anything I could really do about it though, so I tried not to think too much. After all, it was Christmas, and I wanted to keep the day calm. I put on some Hallmark movies, while I opened the gifts and letters my family had sent. Around 3 in the afternoon, I started getting bored and checked the weather. It was supposed to get much colder that evening, so I figured I should go for a walk around the neighborhood while it was still manageable outside. I bundled up, stepped out, and started walking down the sidewalk, looking at all the Christmas lights and enjoying the quiet. A little while into my walk, I noticed someone else outside. They were on the opposite side of the road, the only other person I saw out there. I didn't think anything of it at first, but a few minutes later, they passed by me again. I stopped for a second because there was no way we could cross paths twice that quickly unless they had turned around right after we passed each other the first time. It made no sense. I kept walking though and came to a split where I could either take the long route or head back home. I told myself I was going home simply because I was getting cold, not because of that person. Even though it was strange, something else just felt off, like something in the air telling me I should head back. When I got home, I walked through the front door, and almost immediately after closing it, someone knocked on it. The timing was so sharp it made my heart drop. I had barely taken off my boots. I was still right by the door when the knock came again. Something in me already knew this wasn't good. I looked through the peephole and saw a man standing very close to the door. He had a baseball cap pulled low, hiding most of his face. Something about him felt familiar, but I couldn't place it right away. At that moment, I thought maybe it was just the guy I had seen walking around the neighborhood earlier. He knocked again, harder this time. I knew he had to have seen me walk inside. I called out, asking what he needed, but he didn't answer. A few seconds passed and he suddenly slammed his fist against the door. I asked again what he wanted, but he didn't respond. He just stood pressed up against the door like he was listening. Then, without saying a single word, he banged on the door again, even louder than before. My whole body tensed up. A moment later, he grabbed the door handle and shoved his full weight against the door over and over. The entire door shook so hard it sounded like the hinges were rattling. I backed away, staring at it, expecting it to break at any second. He kept slamming into the door non-stop for what felt like a long time but was probably only 20 or 30 seconds. Then it suddenly went quiet. Everything stopped. I froze right where I was, listening. A moment later, I heard yelling outside, multiple people yelling. I slowly walked back to the peephole and looked outside. 2 police officers were on my porch, wrestling the man to the ground and arresting him. I had no idea how or why they were there. At first I honestly thought it was some strange, unbelievable timing, but it turned out a neighbor had called earlier to report a man acting strange, pacing back and forth on our street for hours, and eventually standing outside my home. As the officers talked to me, the most disturbing part hit me. I knew the man. He was an ex from 6 years earlier, someone I had completely moved on from and hadn't spoken to since the breakup. He didn't even live in the same state as me anymore. There was no reason for him to be anywhere near my home, let alone on Christmas Day. The police searched him and found 2 knives on him. Then they searched his car, which he had parked a few blocks away, and found even more. He had a firearm and a full roll of duct tape. Both items had been bought just days earlier. He never admitted to why he was there or what he planned to do. But looking at everything they found on him, it wasn't hard to understand what he might have intended. It's terrifying to think that after so many years with zero contact, he suddenly showed up at my door, on a holiday, and tried to force his way inside. I still think about how things could have gone if my neighbor had Auntie noticed him sooner and called the police when they did. That thought alone still scares me more than anything.